one more minute, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. All right, so real quick, one more time, just a raise of hands from members of the board and members of the public with video on that you do hear me and can hear me clearly. Perfect. All right, so my name is JT Chevalier. I am the town manager here in the town of Genoa. And today we're going to be holding the Genoa Town Advisory Board meeting for the month of July. This will be a different meeting than what we are typically used to due to COVID-19 impacts. So right now, what I'm doing is I am bringing up the agenda for you to review. This first message is for members of the board. Members of the board, the way that we will be conducting the meeting is Steve will procedurally move through the agenda. When we move to any motions or seconds, what we ask is members of the board, if they would like to make a motion, to raise their hand up like this, for Steve to select an individual to make that motion. If an individual would like to make a second, we ask that they raise their hand as well. Steve will select them and they can make that second. When we move on to action items for all of the action items on the agenda, we will do that in roll call fashion, meaning Steve will call each individual board member's name, and that board member will vote yay or nay on each item. Or if they would like to recuse themselves, they can recuse themselves from that item. Members of the public in attendance, we just want to caution you that this is a meeting for the Genoa Town Advisory Board and staff. So members of the public will not be able to utilize video or audio capabilities on the meeting. It's strictly for viewing only. We ask that you respect this as we procedurally move through the agenda to ensure that the technology works and that we can move through this in a constructive and quick manner. And with that, I will turn it back over to Chairman Steve Shively to start the meeting and call it to order.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order, and we'll do roll call starting with Pat.
Here.
Gordon.
Here.
Linda. Linda's muted.
I think
I'm here, Linda Birdwell. Thank you.
Brian.
Here.
And Steve Shively is here. Okay, let's go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Please take off your cover and the pledge. Your flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Are you going to get rid of the flag? There you go. The Genoa Town Advisory Board will review public comment received prior to 9 a.m. Wednesday, June 8, 2020. Public comment received after 9 a.m. on the day of the meeting will be compiled and supplemented to the meeting minutes. And I'll turn it over to JT from there.
All righty, thank you, Steve. I'm going to go ahead and go back into the screen sharing mechanism, so just bear with me real quick as we move into the public comment period. Public comment, there was 3 different opportunities for members of the public to submit public comment. That was via email, mail, or phone message. We received multiple public comments, so I will read each one in its entirety and also show it on the viewer. First came from Marion E. Vassar. And this is dated July 4th, 2020, to the Genoa Town Advisory Board. Steve Shively, Chairman, Genoa, Nevada, 89411. Town board members, I am writing you as a member of the Genoa Historic Commission. As you know, in 1974, Genoa was privileged to be placed in the National Registry of Historic Towns. This designation pertained only to property which is zoned neighborhood commercial and only to that portion of the property that is visible from the street. Douglas County established the Genoa Historic Commission, GHDC, to oversee and approve any visible changes, including new construction, structural changes, fencing, color, etc. Douglas County Code, Chapter 20.680 and Chapter 2.28 establishes the guidelines and regulations for the Genoa Historic District Commission. In past years, there have been many changes, and for 99% of them, the GHDC either concurred with the design change or worked together with the business property owner to arrive at a consensus concerning the change. In the past year, there have been two issues with neighborhood commercial properties. For some length of time, one has been resolved to the satisfaction of both the business and the GHDC. There's presently one business that has refused to accept GHDC oversight. When the project started, they were told about the need to present the changes to the GHDC. GHDC was led to believe that they would stop and attempt to comply with county code, which requires a certificate of appropriateness from the GHDC to continue. Unfortunately, that did not happen. I am now told they are having a grand opening, in quotes, soon. The responsibility of the GHDC is not only to help protect our historic integrity, but also to determine if desired changes are appropriate for our district. Respectfully, Bob Santani, Chairman, Marion Vassar, Vice Chairman and Secretary, with a carbon copy to Tom Dallaire, Douglas County Community Development Director. I'm going to now move on to the second public comment received. Hi, JT. Pat Ekman asked me to send you an email as a part of the meeting tomorrow night. I think she wanted our opinion as the volunteer coordinators to be a part of the record. We hate to see the 2020 Candy Dance canceled, but see no alternative. There really isn't any way for people to distance from each other, and we have no way to enforce either the wearing of masks or the number of people coming into town. Since we do not feel that we could put on an event safely, we are unwilling, to coordinate volunteers under these circumstances. We feel responsible for their safety as well as for the safety of the attending public. We also don't want Genoa to make the national news for all of the wrong reasons. We are all in for working hard to make the 2021 Candy Dance a great success for all. Allison and Roger Gray. A little bit more information. Allison and Roger Gray are the volunteer coordinators for the Genoa Candy Dance. This message is from Dan Ainsworth. Hi, JT. The Genoa Lakes HOA meeting is tonight at 5 p.m., so I cannot be at the GTAB meeting. I just simply want to reiterate my feelings that there is no way we should have Candy Dance this year. We have no therapies, there's no way to accomplish social distancing, and really no way to enforce wearing masks. So we'd be creating a super spreader event almost by definition. I have had many conversations with locals, including the financial impact, because they asked me about it. And every single one agrees that it should be canceled. I am sure you will make the right decision tonight. Thanks, Dan Ainsworth. This one is from Debrin Smedley, and this was originally directed to the Lillian Virgin Finnegan Statue Committee, and she asked that I share this email to the general public as well as the Genoa Town Advisory Board for public comment. Dear Lillian Finnegan Committee, Lillian is all ready for the 4th celebration. Lillian statue not only erected to commemorate the 100 years of Candy Dance, Lillian was selected as an icon to represent and to honor all volunteers. Volunteers play a very important role in the development of the town of Genoa. When we add on the seasonal decoration on Lillian, we are bringing Lillian alive. We want to let all the volunteers know through Lillian, we celebrate all the festive seasons with them, and we honor each and every one of them. Lillian is not just a monument, she is one of us, one of the many volunteers. This July 4th, we are honoring all volunteers, wishing everyone a happy 4th. May it bring a smile on your face, peace and strength to your family, our community, and our country. Happy 4th, Deborah. So that's the pieces of public comment that we did receive. We have 2 supplementals that board member Pat Ekman provided. I think what we'll do is we'll provide those at a point that she determines and she would like those viewed, but we will keep them out of public comment for now. So with that, that is all of the public comment received per the public comment rules. And now I will turn it back over to the chair and continue the meeting as scheduled.
Okay, for possible action, approval of the agenda, the Genoa Town Advisory Board reserves the right to take items in a different order to accomplish business in the most efficient manner. Do I have a motion? Please raise your hand if you have a motion to approve the agenda. Pat? Pat, go ahead. Pat's muted.
Let's see if we can get her off.
There
we go, Pat.
To approve the agenda.
Do I have a second? Please raise your hand. Ryan?
I second approving the agenda.
Okay. So I'm going to individually ask you on approval or denial of this. Pat? Do you approve of, oh, you're muted again.
Okay, I'll keep myself unmuted. I approve.
Okay. All right, Gordon?
I approve.
Linda?
I approve.
Ryan?
I approve.
And I approve also. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, for possible action, regular meeting June 3rd, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Please raise your hand. Pat?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Gordon?
I'll second the motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Roll call. Pat?
I approve.
Gordon?
Approve.
Linda?
Approve.
Ryan?
Approve.
And I approve also. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Consent calendar. Items appearing on the consent calendar are items that may be adopted with one motion. Consent items may be pulled at the request of a town board member wishing to have the items or items further discussed. When items are pulled for discussion, they will automatically be placed at the beginning of the administrative agenda. So the first item, of course, is approve the June 2020 financial report, including claims paid. Do I have a motion for that?
Steve, if I may, it's both items are on the consent, so it's one vote for both of the items.
Oh, okay. Last month you made me do them separate.
That was my fault. That dang town manager.
Okay, for both the consent items, do I have a motion to approve them?
I make a motion to approve both consent calendars items.
Do I have a second?
I'll
Linda?
second that motion.
Okay, for approval, Pat?
I approve.
Gordon?
Approve.
Linda?
Approve.
Ryan? And I approve also. Okay, Administrative agenda. The town manager report. Turn it over to you, JT.
Alrighty, thank you, Chairman Shively. So we're going to jump into the town manager report. I'll keep it relatively brief because I know we have a good amount of the public that want to know what's going on with some of our other agenda items. So first and foremost, CE reports are due in by 7/15/2020. So make sure our elected officials, we get those reports in so no fines come as a result of that. We've been working on fire danger along the roadways, focusing on 5th Street, 1st Street, and Genoa Street in Nixon. This is mainly utilizing our weed whacker mower to beat down a lot of the weeds and dry debris that is kind of accumulated on the roadways. Of course, you know, being fire aware at this point in time is very important. You know, my heart, and I know the heart of Genoa, goes out to all the firefighters, first responders, and those working on the Numbers fire. Those are the true heroes out there, so we definitely support them fully. So the church power has been restored at the town church. Unfortunately, that was damaged when an individual backed up into the power line, and we got that restored. Unfortunately, right when we got power restored to the church, we lost water to the church due to a significant water line break that comes from the town's well system, travels under the church, and then a joint and then travels down to the town hall and town office. Luckily, we were able to get the water back on at the town office and the town hall, but currently we have about a 5-foot wide by 5-foot deep hole under the church as we excavate the water line to get that repaired. I should have that dug out completely by the end of tomorrow so that we can get the plumber back over. We have about 2 to 3 joints that were damaged. In the kind of guessing as to what occurred, we guess that it could be a freezing incident that happened over the winter that became worse over time, or, and this is a little bit more of a unique situation, the earthquakes that we've experienced recently could have shifted and damaged that pipe underneath the ground. The town park, we fixed 3 broken sprinkler heads. We've also fixed the Ballard lights that align the walking path, in addition to getting the power restored to the second half of the bandstand gazebo, which is located on the southwest corner of the town park. Road grading, we're still waiting to hear back from Mountain West Construction for a exact date. They're looking for the end of July to get the roads graded. And then road spraying has been scheduled. It is on the schedule for August 2nd and 3rd. Brent Howell from Howell Homes was gracious enough to pick up the signs that he initially created for the advisory boards. He revised those to reflect the correct elevation, and now they're back at the town offices. So again, a big thanks to Brent from Howell Homes. He donated all of his time, effort, and equipment to make that happen. So we're really excited to get those things up and in the public view. COVID-19 impacts and updates. We'll wait for the COVID-19 agenda item to discuss that in greater detail. The RDA redevelopment projects, we will again wait for that for the agenda item for discussion, but that project is moving along. Finance, ongoing processing of claims, refunds for facility rental cancellations, Candy Dance vendor cancellations with a refund policy of 100% refunds. No questions asked. Again, purchasing limited to only essential supplies and services needed for the organization. And current budget numbers currently show us at year end with about a $16,000 budget surplus. And that, of course, is we need to take into account that we might see an additional $2,000 to $5,000 in additional expenses that roll in that will be attached to that 19-20 budget cycle. Again, the budget will review at that agenda item. Moving forward to Candy Dance. Again, Candy Dance, we have been proceeding as planned. However, we will get to the Candy Dance item for greater discussion and decision. Concerts on the Green, they have been postponed through July. I am going to cancel the August and September Concerts on the Green because I feel at this point in time, our ability to execute the event with our challenges for health and safety, it's in the best interest of the town. We can revisit that because they don't take a lot of bandwidth to get them back up and to get them running. But as of this point in time, we will be moving forward with cancellation of the August and June date. The website, I really got to tip my hat to Tiffany. She has done an amazing job getting this website to its final stages. Of course, a website is always a work in progress, so we will continue to get it and hone it to its final version, but really websites are never a final version. But we will be launching the website officially July 15th. I think we previously had a date of June 30th, but just due to a couple of ongoing incidences in town, we kind of had to revise that and push it to the July 15th. That is a hard date. I don't see that changing at this point in time, so we will have a release of the website at that time. The La Firme facilitation of construction, really we'll call it the 2291 Main Street property, is going on as Lois has planned. We see no discernible impacts to her operations through our RDA projects. So that is very good news. I've had ongoing communication with both Lois and Hall Construction as they've moved through that project. One request from Lois, and this is something that I think is long overdue, is she would like us to utilize that $5,000 donation that she made to the town to assist in the rehab of the north side of the town office property adjacent to the 2291 property, mainly speaking to debris and trash cleanup, the reinstallation of the gutters that were taking off on the, I believe is the winter of 2019, and then a little bit of paint and finishes. So that will definitely fall within that $5,000 donation. Lois was also kind enough to offer up an additional $5,000 if we needed it and if we weren't able to execute it with that budget. So a big thanks to Lois. I think that was long overdue and needed. You know, that is going to be an amazing property, and we need to match what she's doing with a little bit of work on our side. So I'm happy to engage in that. I'm already engaged in a couple of individuals that can assist with that, and I will keep you guys updated as we start to progress into that. The likelihood of us working on that would probably be closer to about September timeline. The last piece, and this is somewhat unfortunate to report to everybody. I know everybody is aware of the local Battle-Born Mounted Posse. They are the individuals that ride on the horses, that work with the sheriff's office, that provide us with evening security for the candy dance, but also park all of the cars at Genoa Lane for the candy dance. So they provide a great amount of service to us. And unfortunately, their president, Tom Stone, who is also a good friend of mine, passed away a couple days ago. He was the president of the Battle-Born Mounted Posse. Henri and Tom have served as an integral role to the town for public safety and car parking at the Genoa Lane lot for candy dance. Tom has always been a strong and caring presence. His efforts to make our community better will last a lifetime. Personally, Tom and Henri were friends and more than friends of mine. They were closer to family. So my heart breaks for him, and I know that they will always, Tom will always be remembered here in the town of Genoa. So we carry the torch and we celebrate the amazing individual that he was. So with that, I will yield back to Chairman Shively and for any questions from the board for the town manager report.
If there's any questions for the town manager, please raise your hand and I'll call upon you. Linda, you have a question? No? No questions or comments? Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item. For possible action, discussion of the 2020 Genoa Candy Dance, including contingency planning, liability of execution, public safety challenges, and possible cancellation of the event. And I'll turn it over to JT for that.
All right. So thank you, Chairman Shively. So this is, we're really at a crossroads right now with the candy dance. We are at a point where we have had very minimal financial investment into the event as it stands now. And what I mean by financial investment is investment in candy making supplies, investment in permits, investment in insurance, and investment in staffing. So I think that the time to make the decision on the candy dance is now. I think delaying the decision any further is really not going to provide any benefit or allow us to see any changes as it relates to the candy dance moving forward. I would like to go back into the screen sharing mechanism, so bear with me just for 1 second as I change over to that. Everybody should have the screen popping up. And so we did receive a few pieces of feedback regarding the Genoa candy dance. So I'm just going to go ahead and read those right now, and then I will go into further my staff report. Hi, Tiffany. This email is to inform you that I must unfortunately cancel my booth for the 2020 candy dance. It breaks my heart to do this, but here are my reasons. 1, it is too risky for me to plan to travel 600 miles from my home in Washington, stay a week in hotels that may or may not be reliably open, and then travel back. I am in a high-risk category, being over 70 years of age. I am in good health, but I do not want to put myself in a situation where I am vulnerable. I have done this show since 2003, never missing a year. During those 17 years, I have, quote, paid my dues by upgrading from my poor booth locations to my current chosen location. Having to give this up is both a business and personal decision based on the pandemic and all of its ramifications. This week, the Oregon Governor, Kate Brown, has put a hold on large event gatherings through the end of September. I'm confident that other governors will do the same. However, I cannot wait for these decisions to be made state by state. It would be too late to get a refund if I did, and as a small business owner, not getting a refund of $550 would be a big hit financially. 5, nearly all of my shows, classes, retreats for 2020 have been canceled or rescheduled due to the pandemic. 6, I do not have confidence that a show would even be successful, and this is in parentheses, well attended, if it did take place. Since it has been a show for me with high traffic and sales, with lots of returning customers, I need to make smart business decisions. Here is what I would like you and the Candy Dance Committee to know in addition. 1, if there is a 2021 Candy Dance, I would love to return as long as, quote, normal conditions prevail. I think that I and all previous vendors, speedy registrants who have expressed their interest in the 2020 show and who want to continue should be grandfathered in to their current status as participants in future Candy Dance shows without being treated as new applicants who must reprove themselves and risk the previous show's experience and reputations. In other words, consider 2020 to be an anomaly and then go forward with 2021. 3, I feel that I, as long-time vendor who has chose between show participation and health risks and being punished for circumstances beyond my control, the pandemic. I'm not canceling for a frivolous reason. 4, I do appreciate my experience with the show, the committee, and the volunteers who make it happen year after year. I hope I can return in better times. I look forward to hearing what the Candy Dance Committee decides in their June meeting. I am confident that my comments here will be shared with them. I believe that I am not the only show participant who feels this way. Please let me know that you have received this email and it will be addressed by or before the June 1 deadline for booth fee refunds. Thank you so much. I know this is hard for everyone. Tony McCarthy. Moving forward to the next one. I was told to submit my feelings about Candy Dance Fair before the next meeting. I'm speaking as a vendor. I have had 5 craft fairs this year. I have 5 craft fairs this year, with the first one scheduled for August, 3 in September, 1 possibly in October, and 1 in November. My thoughts about them all, including the Candy Dance. I hope none of them will be held this year. At first, when the virus started becoming a serious problem, I was worried about them being canceled. However, the more information I get and the longer this is hanging on have made me feel that even if they are held, they will be skeletons of their previous selves as far as attendance by booths and vendors and shoppers. I am at the at-risk age of the virus. I am 72. I've also had problems wearing masks anywhere because I can't breathe and I steam up my glasses. I wear them whenever I'm in the grocery store and in any building because I have to. I live in the counties that are still not open in the Bay Area. If any of the shows take place, I will wear a mask during the shows. That will make it hard to communicate effectively to possible customers. Am I going to have to sanitize my booth after each customer leaves, question mark? Do I have to wear gloves, question mark? Sometimes my booth gets packed which would make it difficult for people to keep a safe distance from each other. I would never have a safe distance from customers. The booth would get tight, the air would not be safe, so I would hope everyone would wear a mask. If I thought a vaccine would be out before the show, then maybe it wouldn't be as unsafe. I keep hearing about how the virus is going to come back, parentheses, even though I doubt it will have left, in the fall when most of my shows are held. I think it would be unsafe for everyone at the fairs, and I am praying that they are not held. I asked that one of the promoters of 2 shows that I am supposed to participate in California Artists, that if the shows are postponed until next year, that I can carry the money I have paid for the shows over to next year. Their answer was yes. I will ask the same of you. If we're not able to carry the money deposit made last year over to next year, does that mean that everyone will starting from scratch as far as their booth locations, et cetera, ? I'm hoping I have voiced my opinion and it has become part of your decisions made at the next meeting. I CC 2 ladies who have always have their booth across from mine at the Orchard House. Thank you for listening. So now we'll move on to an additional one. I know that you are still waiting to decide plans for the festival. I hope you consider a few issues. 1, the attendance is almost certainly going to be down, maybe significant. 2, many vendors travel long distance to the festival, and along with the space rental fee and the normal expenses, it would not be worth the final sales. Can the vendor waive this year's attendance to get a full refund? 4, is there still health risks involved in selling at this festival, precautions or not? Some of us want to pass on this year's event. Something to consider, Jim C. So that is basically the remainder of the Candy Dance kind of discussions. So, you know, I would now like to move into how I see Candy Dance and my personal view of it as the town manager of Genoa. It absolutely breaks my heart that our vendors, who are really the lifeblood of our organization for Candy Dance, are affected by this. Tiffany and I have both been in alignment that we want to provide them with as much remedy as possible in the event of a potential cancellation of Candy Dance. We have developed a policy that will ensure that those wanting refunds will get refunds, and those wanting to roll over their fees to next year will be able to do so. Those that are wanting to roll over their fees to next year will be able to continue to retain their ability to make the choice of where they want to be. And have first right of refusal for their respective spots. Those wanting full refunds will be granted we'll call it a period of time in which, you know, we'll call it VIP entry, in which when we get into registration next year, they will have an opportunity to register prior to general public being able to register. So still giving them a remedy and giving them a refund, but not punishing those that want to roll their fees over to next year. So the 2 different options that we're really offering people are a full refund and a opportunity to kind of be an early addition next year, or rolling their fees over to next year. Or the final one is if they want to make a cash deductible donation to the town of Genoa in the form of their vendor fees, we will absolutely take it. However, for me, the most important thing that we need to remember is the vast majority of our revenue from this event comes from our vendors. And the feedback that I've received from not only vendors, but the general public is that there is a significant concern about their public health and the public health of the community. I feel that as a town, our highest and most piece of responsibility has to deal with the public health of our town and our community. So at this point, in the planning and execution of Candy Dance 2020, I feel that it is the most prudent and safe decision for our vendors, for the general public, for attendees, and for our Genoa community and our general community, that we do move forward with cancellation of the 2020 Candy Dance and look forward to the 2021 Candy Dance. Obviously, that has some pretty significant fiscal impacts to the town, which we can go over in our budget reduction scenarios on the next agenda item. in greater detail, we would be looking at about a 50 to 60% reduction in revenue. But also keep that in mind that we'd be experiencing a pretty significant, I want to say about a 30 to 40% reduction in expenses. So there is some give and take there. I did have a conversation with the finance department at the county. We're in a good fiscal position. So in the event that we canceled Candy Dance, it would not make the town insolvent by any stretch of the imagination. So that's something very important for us to keep in mind as we make our decision. And I can go over that in greater detail as we roll into the budget next. But at this point in time, I think we need to prioritize the health and safety of our residents, the health and safety of our community, and the health and safety of our vendors. So that's kind of the staff report on where we are currently at. And now I'll turn it back over to Chairman Shively for board discussion or any questions that you have for me.
Okay, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to call each member individually for comment, questions, and discussion. So we'll start with Pat.
I agree with JT and Tiffany's policy about giving the vendors their choice of a full refund or rolling over and keeping their space for next year. I think that's more than, only fair. And yeah, there's no reason to penalize the vendors. And I do have some other ideas, but maybe we can bring it up later about contingency fundraising, alternative means of doing that. So.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Gordon?
I'll agree with JT there on giving the vendors back their money. There's, being from government, there is no way we're going to be able to execute the sheriff, NDOT. It's not going to happen. It'd just be a big waste of money for us to go forward with it. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to agree, and we're going to have to do something different for this year. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you. Linda?
Thanks, Steve. I concur 100% with JT and Tiffany. Let's keep our vendors whole. Let's keep our vendors happy. And I gotta believe that most of the folks in the town are gonna appreciate the fact that we want them to stay safe, and we'll postpone Candy Dance, until next year. I will follow up to what Pat said, and that I think we need a discussion or maybe a separate meeting to kind of redefine what Candy Dance weekend would be this year. Is it a small controlled entry gathering on the evening for some food and music? Is it perhaps, I'm thinking of what we can do right now. And, I work for Carson Valley Medical Center. We are still going ahead with our golf tournament on September 18th. So maybe we could have Candy Dance golf if we could find a place to have it. It's awfully last minute. And I know a lot of organizations have had to move their golf tournaments into this fall period. So I don't know if we'd have space or not, but thank you for the opportunity to express my opinion, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. And Brian?
I agree with JT. I believe that the vendors ought to get their money back, and there's no sense having the normal Candy Dance. But I also have thoughts along the line that Linda and Pat have. I really feel that somehow, if we can, we ought to make it Candy Dance, perhaps for the vendors and the restaurants that we have in town. Maybe we can do something with them to have a little something depending on what the virus is at that time. That's my end of my comment.
Thank you, Brian. You were a little scratchy there. I don't know if something happened to your speaker or something. It's hard to hear you. Anyway, I have a few comments also. For this pandemic emergency that we have, I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. In fact, events have been canceled from other big communities, fundraising events and stuff into next year. Like if you look at the Elko 2021 Cowboy Festival, the largest one in the United States. They've already canceled that. I think we have a responsibility to our community. The board has to look at not only the budget, but the larger issue of health. And I think we have a big responsibility for that, for our community, for our volunteers and our community, because many of the people fall into those vulnerable categories. Logistically, I've heard quite a few of the comments about trying to do candy dance in phases, but I think it's logistically impossible, and it's impossible to police, you know, that they have the right protective equipment and so forth. I don't see how we can go on with candy dance this year. And based on what the governor says, you know, we can do something small maybe, but right now the gatherings can't be any larger than 50 people. So we'll see what happens with that. Is there, okay, everybody got a chance to make a comment. Is there anybody else that wants to make another comment or anything? Just raise your hand or something. Okay, let me have a motion then. JT, do you have a comment?
Thanks, Steve. I just wanted to add a couple, you know, extra things. Is, you know, depending on how the board wants to make a decision based on candy dance moving forward, we're going to have a bunch of other opportunities to drive revenue into this town. Speaking to Linda, you know, a golf tournament, I've been in contact with Genoa Lakes. You know, there is the potential of online candy sales. There is a potential. I've talked to all of the different vendors, our businesses, Sierra Chef, the Pink House, all willing to carry Genoa candy in their businesses and sell it for us. And I'm sure the country store is on this call, and they would be gracious enough to help us out as well. So we do have the opportunity, if it is safe, to get folks in here and making candy, to make some candy, to sell it, to generate revenue that way, to generate revenue through a potential golf tournament, or maybe it's just a smaller local fundraiser amongst the community. So we have some options. And so I don't want folks to think that if we don't have candy dance, there's no other way to bring revenue into this town. You know, we have a 4 to 5, you know, incredibly intelligent, very strategic folks. I think between our board and our staff, we can develop some great ways with our community to generate revenue. And we also have a very generous community. So, you know, I'm here for the long haul. I know Tiffany's here for the long haul. You guys are here for the long haul. So we're going to get through this regardless of what decision we make. And so I just want to input a little bit of confidence in everybody to know that we will adapt, we will overcome. And with that, I will yield back to the chair.
Tiffany, did you have any comments you wanted to make about candy dance? You're kind of an integral part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, you know, I've talked to a lot of the vendors, and the big concerns that they had were, you know, if this doesn't go forward, do I get my money back? You know, if it doesn't go forward, can we just, you know, roll over? I don't want to lose my space, because we have vendors who love the space that they get into and they just want to stick with it. So I think giving the vendors the opportunity to have that choice themselves, I think is good. And then I do think, you know, a thing to keep in mind is we may think of this as kind of a local event, but 75% of our vendors are coming from out of state. So it's, you know, we've got people coming from California and Arizona, and even the ones that are, you know, in the state of Nevada, the vast majority of them are not from the, you know, Carson Valley area. They're coming from Vegas or Reno. So we do have to understand that this is a large event. And I do think that, unfortunately, just with the situation that it is, I can't see a way forward for this year. So, and that's about all I would have to say.
Thanks for your comments. Linda, did you have another comment?
No, I was just ready to make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Make your motion.
I move that we cancel the 2020 Candy Dance and Art Fair.
Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Oh, Pat.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Pat's got the second, I think.
Okay, Pat, your vote?
I second that Linda's motion.
You approve the motion to pass.
Yeah, I
Okay,
second. Okay, yeah.
Gordon?
I approve that.
Gordon?
Yeah, I approve.
Linda?
Approve.
Brian?
Approve the motion.
And I approve it also. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Item number 6, discussion and review of the current FY 2021 budget in addition to budget reduction scenarios.
All right,
I'll turn it
so
over
this
to
is
you,
the-
Jake.
Yeah, this is the fun
Sorry.
stuff. This is when we get to start to dive into the numbers. So with that, I'm going to share our budget for what the 2021 fiscal was supposed to look like prior to Candy Dance, and then what my guidance, and this is all high level, so this is intended to have deeper dives into it. So let's start off with the left-hand column. So the left-hand column is the adopted 2021 budget for the town of Genoa that was presented to the Board of County Commissioners. The right-hand side, which would be column D, would be our budget revised with no Candy Dance. And let me remind everybody, this is if we didn't have Candy Dance, but we also didn't have any other revenue generating mechanisms in place. Essentially, if we just didn't have Candy Dance and we tried to survive. So moving first, I'll kind of start off with the first piece. So that 158 adjusted number for our opening fund balance, that is going to be likely our adjusted opening fund balance for the start of the 2021 fiscal year. So you can see we have a pretty good cushion built into that opening fund balance. The reason that we have that change in opening fund balance is because we had that opening fund balance adjustment in 2020. However, we didn't utilize all those expenditures as we initially had anticipated. So we will see a pretty significant opening fund balance open back up in 2021. Of course, there needs to be some kind of year-end closing out in 2020 for us to get all those numbers back. So we will likely see that opening fund balance number as we move into the August month. So moving forward, ad valorem not going to change. As you can see moving down, state consolidated tax is the first one that will probably see some small decrease in the state consolidated tax number, about a 10% decrease. And here's when things start to get a little bit more impactful. So you can see that Candy Dance number, 303,769. So obviously we're going to take that number down to 0 and work back from it. So the idea is that we start with our worst case scenario and then we build it back up to operational reality, because this will not be the reality of Genoa, but this is something that we need to understand. Because it will be in a position that we have to mitigate this reality by driving revenue in other ways. Moving down, you can see pretty much everything stays the same through our investment earnings. And then as we move into rent and lease income, this is what we make from the rentals of our facilities. And this actually could be not a conservative number, but a generous number for that revenue actualization. We could see a pretty significant hit because we have two things working against us. The first thing is obviously COVID and our limit to capacity of attendance to 50 people. And the other portion of that is the redevelopment of our two facilities, our town hall and our town office, essentially rendering our town hall unusable. One thing to keep in mind, though, is we did have a modification of the schedule of the town hall construction timeline. It's looking like that is more looking to go to groundbreaking around December, November, as opposed to initial groundbreaking around October. So the time where we have obviously our biggest reservation chunk is that wedding season. So really Memorial Day to October is when we see the majority of that revenue actualized. So we could see some revenue generation through that, through the rentals that we have through the remainder of the season. But I would caution everybody, that $10,000 number could be a generous assumption. So as we move further down, I have too many computers open and too many mouses. So we move down to salaries and wages. So this is the expenditure portion. So the top portion, let me go back. So this number was what we had initially anticipated in revenue for our 2020-2021, and that is with the Candy Dance revenue in there. This is what our revenue looks like once we remove Candy Dance revenue out. So pretty close to a 50% budget reduction as far as revenues are considered. So now we move into our expenditures. So you can see that our salaries and wages went down pretty significantly, about 17%. Now, what this is not a mandatory furlough, not a layoff of employee, but merely us recognizing that we have a part-time maintenance assistant position that was built into our budget for salaries and wages, also retirement, workers' comp, and all of the benefits. So after having a meeting with Patrick Cates and Terry Willoughby, who's our CFO, she informed me that that number could be removed. So what we'll do is we'll put that to a vote. We'll eliminate that position. Then we can reallocate those funds, which is about, off the top, about $21,000 for salaries and wages, and then about a 17% decrease in all of the associated benefits. So you see that number goes down from 120 to about 99. And then we move down to the retirement, workers' comp, and all of these have been lowered by 17% to reflect the loss of that part-time position. So essentially all we're doing is not filling a position that we haven't filled and hadn't been filled for a while. As we move through this cell phone stipend, I'm not going to take a cell phone stipend this year, so that will actually be changed to 0. And then as we move further down, we can see a little bit more of the limitations on our, not our services, but our expenditures. So advertising, we downgraded that by over 50% to $3,000. Utilities, we remain the same because obviously utilities don't change very much, not much of a variable cost. Maintenance on buildings and grounds, we downgraded that to about $5,000 because we typically do not utilize the remainder of those funds. Maintenance on the roads, we've downgraded that to about $20,000 from $25,000. So about a 20% decrease. And really the maintenance and roads budget had been padded previously because of previous degradation to the roads that were a result of major flooding. So we've always had a little bit of extra money in there, which I think is good. So we could trim that fat. Maintenance on equipment, $1,500 a year. Maintenance on vehicles, $1,500 a year from $3,000, so about a 15% decrease. I feel confident that we could stay within budget with those. Rent and leases on equipment, these are pretty fixed, you know, like our copier and a few other things. Maintenance on parks and landscapes, what we'll probably do is downgrade that to about $4,000. If that means that I need to pick up a mower or we need to do a little bit of additional work, that's just what we're going to do. Recreation expenses, we downgraded that from $15,000 to $10,000. And I will caution you that if we need to get into some real significant budget tightening scenarios, the two that I think are first on the chopping block are going to be our advertising, and then also, not that number, I apologize, the one above it. So this number right here, that 3,000, and this 10,000. So if we need to do additional cuts, those would probably be where those additional cuts came from. Now moving a little further down, professional services. So these are a lot of our contracted services for cleaning, for some of the landscaping, for things along those lines. We've downgraded that to $5,000, but that might be, again, we could see some additional expenditures in professional services because of the fact that Tiffany and I are going to be the two-man and woman show. So as we move to operating supplies, down from $4,000 to $2,000, gas and oil, which we really, because of Candy Dance, because of the Candy Dance cancellation, we're not going to use that much gas and oil. That was mainly to fill all of the golf carts, all of the trucks and everything. So I use very little gas and oil. I actually utilize my personal truck more than the town truck, and just because I like it more. No offense to the town truck. Office supplies from 1,000 to 500. So really making sure that, this is your paper clips, your printer paper, things along those lines. So there might be some initiatives to move more towards digital paperwork as opposed to paper, because any savings that we can find, we want to find. Grants and community. So we will be forfeiting and not moving forward with any grant support. Obviously, we're in a position, kind of going into this kind of budget scenario. What we really want to do is be cognizant of money going out. And so those grants that went to Arbor Day, so purchasing the trees, making donations for the school buses for the kids. So we'll have to be strategic, but I do believe that we could potentially find a sponsor for those donations or things along those lines, or in the event that we just had to cancel it, I think it's financially prudent. Moving down to the Candy Dance Fair, you can see that there still is a $10,000 built-in cost in 2020, 2021. That more is trying to take into account what we're going to incur next year as we plan for the 2021 Candy Dance. So, typically in the last couple months, that May, June period of time, we start to, spend money on the Candy Dance for the upcoming season to ensure that, permits are in place, insurance in place, so on and so forth. So that $10,000 is not built in for Candy Dance expenses this year, more so built in for Candy Dance anticipated Candy Dance expenses for next year, but in this current fiscal budget. As we move down, unfortunately, the cowboy music and poetry, we'll probably have to forego that donation. I think with how the committee was working for Cowboy Poetry and Music Festival, and in the event that we do move forward with it, obviously it's in April, so you never know. But we would be able to put on that event with or without that $1,500. So that doesn't concern me at all. So as we move down to the final budget numbers, you can see that this is what our expense total was going to look like, and then this is what our expense total has been adjusted to. Something to keep in mind too is that these are very high level numbers, and a budget reduction scenario. I think what we'll need to do is do a little bit more due diligence on the finance side of things to ensure that we're really and clearly understanding what our impacts are going to be. But I feel that these numbers are close to what we're going to be looking at as far as financial impacts. So if we look at it as far as our revenues of 275, 223, our expenses of 274, 671, and that is with zero additional revenue being generated from any other opportunity, from a golf tournament, from candy sales, from a fundraising event, or just from general fundraising. You can see that we can make it, and we will make it. And I've had lengthy conversations with our county manager, Patrick Cates, also Terry Willoughby, our CFO. Terry seems very confident in our ability to, again, survive, make it through this year without any significant impacts. Again, we will not lose staff. We're just not filling a staffed position. In the event that we do have to move towards a potential furlough situation, likely what would happen is I would be furloughed first to ensure that the individual with the highest and biggest money expenditure would get us further as far as a budgetary goal. So that is something to keep in mind, that a furlough is not off the table, but it is unlikely, considering what we're looking at as far as our ability to potentially generate revenue. And really, we would have no real worry of a furlough at this point in time. Patrick as well is, he, as our county manager, wants to ensure that the town of Genoa knows that the county supports us, both in the event of, supporting us from, giving us, a great pat on the back and the support that we need and the encouragement, but also the support knowing that if we did get into a financial challenge, that there would be remedies within the county. So to kind of make a long story somewhat shorter, and then I'll turn it back over to the board, is Candy Dance is unquestionably a significant hit to our revenue, but it is not the iceberg and we are not the Titanic. We will be able to make it through this year. We will be able to provide the services outlined and mandated by code and law to our citizens. We'll be able to remain an independent entity as the town of Genoa, and we will be able to continue with the same operational structure that we've had before. We'll experience some cuts. We'll experience some strategic decision making, but that I think will make the town more efficient and better at what we do, and better in the long run than kind of just always making the same assumptions that Candy Dance is going to happen and that we're going to, you know, be fine. Another thing to keep in mind is this is also an opportunity for the diversification of revenue. And we always go back to this discussion, but you know, we were dealt a pretty significant blow with the denial of our annexation application, because it really is one of our true opportunities to generate revenue. And I was very disappointed in the leadership at the county commissioners making that decision. But they are fully within their rights to make that decision. And so that's why we as an independent town of Genoa need to look inward in what we can do to generate revenue and what we can do to make sure that for the potential of Candy Dance not happening again in the future, because now we have to recognize that as a possibility, that we can adapt and overcome. So I think we're gonna make it happen. Tiffany and I are you know, we're in it. We're ready to roll up our sleeves and get busy and continue to do the great work that the town of Genoa deserves. So with that, I'll yield back to the chairman and the board for any questions or further discussion.
Okay, thank you, JT. Linda.
Gotcha. I really appreciate this update, JT, and I know how much work goes into it. A couple of things I want to say, in addition to what you've laid out here, is that, you know, you personally are not responsible for keeping this town going, okay? So when I hear things like, you know, I don't need to get, you know, cell phone reimbursement, I'm using my, you know, my own truck instead of the town truck. I think what that does in the long run is, I think you short yourself. I know you and Tiffany work so hard, and I don't expect you to be doing that. And, you know, as a board member, I just want to say also, you know, you may be increasing your liability for yourself and for us. You're out on town work, you're in your own vehicle, you get in an accident. You know, I would hate for there to be any question about, you know, being able to, for you to cover yourself and for us to help you do that. So, you know, if it's anybody's responsibility, it's this board's responsibility. So, you know, I would just appreciate if you go back and maybe readjust those numbers. And I want to make sure that you get reimbursed for those items. That's what I had to say.
Thank you for your comment. JT.
Thank you, Linda. And I truly appreciate it. And I think one of the most beautiful things about this town is I know we're all in it together. And I feel nothing but absolute support from our board and from the community. A quick piece about my truck is covered under the town. So if anything were to happen, you know, there would be a remedy there. And as far as my cell phone stipend, you know, I think what I like to always, I try to lead by example. And so if I'm expecting us to cut fat or make a sacrifice, I just want the board to know I'm the first one in line willing to make that sacrifice. I know we're all willing to make a sacrifice, and we'll overcome. But I truly appreciate that, Linda, and that does mean a lot to me. And I know that together, you know, it's not just me on an island. You know, Tiffany, myself, and our board, I think we're a great, strong team. I think we bring a lot to this community, and I think we'll continue to provide a lot to this community. So I just want to say thank you, Linda, for that.
Thank you, JT. Pat, do you have a comment?
I do. I agree with you, Linda, and thank you, JT, for clarifying your insurance, your automobile insurance. Then, you know, and you don't really have to make the sacrifice of paying for your cell phone. Yeah, I know that, you know, in fact, I called you on your personal cell phone today. So, and I do have a question. I don't know if you can look into, since you said that the county was willing to kick in, you're co-managing the renovations, and I was wondering if some part of your salary could be paid out of the RDA funds, at least for this fiscal year, because you're spending a lot of time, you know, overseeing the renovations and letting people in, and maybe, you know, a portion, maybe 25–30% of your salary could be covered in that way. Because, you know, I looked at, we're going to talk about it later, but the budget for the renovations is ridiculous. So I just think maybe you can look into that with the county manager.
Absolutely. I'll have a discussion with
Okay.
both Patrick and Scott McCullough about that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there is an opportunity for us to be, you know, and Phil Ricker actually made that rec.
Yeah.
We lost you there.
And we lost.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Sorry. So I'm working with the county manager's office and also with Scott McCullough, who's our project manager, and Lisa Granahan to see if there is some way that where we can work some of that budget into some of the administrative stuff that we're working on with RDA. And I will say this right now on the public record, I will be going back to that county commission asking for more money from RDA because I think that it is our money. I think that we are entitled to it. I think that it is best used in this area, and we're going to have project shovel ready, due diligence, pre-construction budgets in place for us to secure more of this money. And they're not going to be able to do that with Vista Grande. So I'm going to make a big push for additional RDA money. I'm also going to make the push for Scott to see if we can share some of that project management portion of the budget to where maybe he gives me some directives that I can assist him on because he's so busy, and that we might be able to reallocate some of that budget. So I will absolutely look into that, Patton. And what I think we should do with this budget right here is this needs to be an ongoing discussion item moving forward at every single board meeting. I think that we're going to get more information. We're going to be able to give more information. I'm going to get those numbers closer to what we're truly looking at as far as our impacts. And then we can kind of revisit it and we can say, you know, every month, hey, this is where we're at with maybe the RDA reallocation of funds. Hey, this is where we're at for additional revenue streams to offset the lack of revenue from Candy Dance. Hey, this is where we're at for some potential grant opportunities for lost revenue. Again, and I know this goes back to kind of what we're talking, Pat and I, about the CARES Act is, you know, the CARES Act, I think, is a beautiful thing and could provide great remedy to the community. Unfortunately, it doesn't generate anything for us because of lost revenue, lost governmental revenue. We're not able to use it for that. But I'm holding on to hope that there might be more grant opportunities that come down the pipeline that will provide remedy to that. Because the federal government is going to have to take over a whole heck of a lot if they don't start dishing out some more money to the states and municipalities for us to continue to operate. And I think another nice thing is this is shared by all of us. Every single government at every single level is taking a big kick in the gut. So the nice thing is this isn't unique to us, but the also thing that is unique to us is our ability to generate that revenue and repair that wound in the event that we're able to do Candy Dance 2021. You know, if we're able to do Candy Dance 2021, we dust ourselves off and we are right back in the fight. So that's kind of what I'm trying to carry as my North Star and what I keep my fingers crossed for. So with that, I'll yield back to the chair, but thank you, Pat.
Okay.
From your lips to God's ears. Gordon, do you have a comment?
No, I think I'm good with that here, but it does make no sense for JT to pay for his own cell phone. There's other ways we can get that money. He shouldn't. I appreciate the offer, but I agree with Pat and Linda on that one, that there's no need for him to do that.
Thank you, Gordon. Brian?
I have no comment.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple, having worked in government for many years, I have to tell you, JT, that when you give up budget items, it's hard to get them back. And I just wouldn't give up those benefit budget items that you have, because you may never get them back. You need to kind of keep those into the budget and so forth. And I appreciate all your and Tiffany's efforts, but I'm against any furloughs also. I would like to see that. We can find other ways to get revenue and cut money out of the budget. So I just don't want to see that. Is there any other comments by the board? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the budget report? Linda?
I move that we accept the town manager's updated budget report.
Gordon?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those approved. Pat?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Linda?
Yes, aye.
And I'm a yes also. So it carries 5-0. Okay, our next budget item. Discussion and update of the town of Genoa response to COVID-19 impacts on town operations and services. JT.
All right. So this is mainly just kind of ongoing, that just kind of allows us to continue to stay on top of what's going on with COVID in town, what's going on with COVID, more so in greater Douglas County, and how we're responding to it as a town. So I want to first start off by, a couple of unfortunate reminders of the challenges that we're still facing. And so with that, I'm going to share a screen here, and I'm going to kind of go down. So the first one that you're going to see, these are the COVID numbers back in 6/8/2020. So a month ago, we were at 38 total cases, 10 active cases with 28 recovered. And now we take a look 1 month later, and we're over 100% increase with total cases, current active cases at 27, recovered 52. So we are seeing a rise in infections. Obviously, that could be attributed to different factors, but I think the recognition that there is community spread within this region, that even our own business, Sierra Chef, experienced an impact of this, having 3 positive COVIDs. I think for all of those reasons, we need to remember that this is still a very important and very real threat to our operations and to the community. Now, I want to use threat somewhat delicately because of the fact that I'm not saying that everybody gets COVID is going to die, but I do think that we truly need to protect those that are vulnerable. And this is when we truly find out what a community is, when we have to be selfless for others. So that's just, something to keep in mind with the infections. And mind you, this date on the 8th of June is all of the COVID infections from when COVID first onset to June 8th. And the July number is 30 days. So it's something to keep in mind that we are seeing a spike. And to attribute it to something specific, I don't want to do that, but it's something that we do need to acknowledge. This is from the Carson City Health and Human Services. These are COVID cases broken down by zip code. And the 411 is our exact zip code here. So currently still only at 3 infections. So I think that's good, and I'm very proud of our community for that. And I would love to see that number stay at 3. And I think that those 3 were attributed to Sierra Chef, but she did a fantastic job of closing her business, letting the health department know. The health department instructed her on what to do. She followed them verbatim, and then reached out to me to communicate the issue to me so that we could have a joint operation to inform the general public. So with the town as it stands right now, we are not limiting public entry into our building, but we are requiring masks for public entry into our building. Both Tiffany and I, if we are in the building together, are wearing masks. In any building, there is a Douglas County directive that any building that could see public attendance, you do have to wear a mask if you are working in that building. So if you are interacting with the public, a mask is required. As we move forward with the town, we're not necessarily trying to limit public access to the building. We're not. But what we are doing is we're ensuring that they are wearing masks if they do come into the building, and that they do practice social distancing. Again, we are still putting an emphasis on working from home if it can be done. Tiffany is 2 days in the office right now, 3 days at home. I'm 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, to ensure that we're not in the office again with the potential with the potential of contamination of one another. Because in the event that I go down, Tiffany's the town manager. So that is something that we have been moving forward with. We'll continue to move forward with that. I have seen no decrease in our ability to generate results in what we're trying to do or provide services. So that will continue to be the operations of the town. If we get to a point where we start to see widespread
We lost you again.
community will likely only be working in the office 1 to 2 days a week. But it is something that we need to keep in mind, is that with the widespread potential infection in the area, that we could see changes in operations, but not changes in the delivery of services. But we'll continue as is. It's working. That we do have to see a change, and we'll address it as such. So with that, that's our COVID response. We're utilizing the directives of our emergency response system, the Quad Counties Health and Human Services, and the Douglas County Public Information Officer apparatus. With that, I'll yield back to Chairman Shively and answer any questions or listen to any board comment.
Pat, we'll start with you. Any comments or questions? No? Okay. Gordon?
Yeah, JT, have we been tracking how much time is being affected on our operations by COVID for the potential reimbursement from Douglas County or from the state? I know where I'm at, there's a big hunk of money's come in, and we're trying to prove why we need some of that money. We're kind of keeping a log of this, or maybe we can get some of that back.
Yeah, absolutely, Gordon. So what the county finance department has instructed us to do is there's a specific COVID code that you can code any of your expenditures to that COVID code. Whether it be PPE, anything along those lines, any investment in additional infrastructure.
Lost you.
Anything like that to the COVID code.
GT, you're going in and out.
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
JT, your button says you're on mute. In our gala review, your little microphone has an X to it, so it says you're on mute.
Can everybody hear me right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Hear me good? All right. I just got off the phone. Sorry about that. So if everybody can hear me, I'll just kind of recap what I just said. Thank you, Steve. Steve's actually in the next room over, so he came and waved at me. So a big thanks to Steve for letting me know. So we have two different things that are going on. The first one is there's a COVID code with the county finance department in which we're able to code expenditures to county finance for that specific expenditure. Of course, with that reflects PPE, plexiglass, dividers, any upgrades to facilities to make them COVID compliant. That's more so been the areas of government that have a lot of that public interaction, like the treasurer's office, assessor's office, things along those lines. And we are working with the county finance department. I believe Terry sent out a document last week that related to the CARES Act and what we can bill back for, what we can't bill back for. So probably Tiffany and I in the next 2 weeks, we're doing a pretty deep dive into our expenditures and see what we can attribute to COVID and get paid back for, and what we could also invest in for COVID to get reimbursed to ensure that we're able to secure as much money of that as possible. I mean, you know, in conversations with the county, it's $9 million. And so it's a pretty significant chunk of money, and they're not even, you know, it's enough of an amount of money where they're not even sure where they're going to be able to spend it. So trying to make sure that we have discernible avenues where we can get those reimbursements or provide grants to businesses is kind of what we're working on here in the next couple weeks.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian, do you have any comments or questions?
No comment.
Questions or for JT?
I think Brian said no comment.
Oh,
No
no
comment. Yes.
Okay. Well, I appreciate all your updates on the coronavirus thing and keeping us informed on what's going on. It's just going to be one of those long haul things. I don't see any end to it anytime soon until they come out with a vaccine. And then you have to decide from 350 million people across the United States who's going to get vaccinated at what time and how you're going to do it. And that's a plan in itself. So, we need a motion on this?
Can I make a comment?
Pat?
Oh, yeah. I just had a quick comment. I had sent everybody an email about the newspaper article where the county, they have to spend the 8.93 million by December 31st. And I'm hoping that the federal government revises that December 31st date, because that, you know, that's impossible. And it also,
You're gonna go way past that.
yeah, the grant must, on the bottom left, it says the grant must be used by December 31st.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's that needs to be changed, and you know, and JT already said that the money cannot be spent to make up for shortfalls, so that's unfortunate too. But I just wanted everybody to see this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pat, for sharing that. I really
Okay,
appreciate
thanks.
that.
Well,
Those are. So JT, do we need a motion on this or?
Let me check the agenda. I do believe it is for action. Yeah, it's for possible action, so you don't need to take action on it if you don't want to.
Okay. I guess we can accept the update. Do we have a motion to accept the update?
I make a motion to accept the update.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second it. So Pat, you approve or yes?
Yes.
Gordon,
Yes, approve.
Linda,
I approve.
Brian,
I approve.
and I approve. So the motion carries 5-0. Okay, discussion and update on RDA projects and timeline. JT, take it away.
All right, so you know things have been moving along pretty well with the RDA timeline. I've been you know I'm encouraged with the team that we're working with. Paul Cabin, Scott McCullough, and Core Construction have been great, professional, and communicative through the whole process. I believe the last time we had a conversation, it was sounding like we're going to be a bit more challenged financially. You know, our wants and our needs exceed our budget. So I'm just going to kind of roll through. You know, I actually might just stop this screen share and allow the board to view this packet in greater detail. But I'll just kind of stick to the high level. So the high level is basically we're about $30,000 over budget with the town hall renovation. The town hall renovation is going to be specifically relating to ADA compliance, fire safety, and egress ingress. So the main components of the town hall renovation are going to be changing the bathroom into an ADA compliant bathroom, which is going to be involving rearranging some of our storage area behind the bar, in addition to creating bigger walkways, doorways, and access points for the ADA compliance, in addition to making all entries and exits ADA compliant. For the fire egress ingress, there's going to be a ramp installed on the southeast corner of the town hall. So that's going to be the one that's adjacent to the TIG building. What they're going to be doing is installing a new ramp that will go down the side of the TIG building, not the TIG building, that will go down the side of the town hall, providing a area of refuge for people that need to leave the town hall because of a fire incident. That will be ADA compliant with a ramp, and also likely an expanded doorway and a relocation of the generator and the propane tank on the southeast side. On the northeast side of the town hall, they're likely going to have to change the door swing and remove the mesh door in between the two buildings to create those code compliant pieces there. They're also currently looking into the installation of a HVAC system, AC and heat, in the town hall, looking into the feasibility and the financials of that. And I believe that is pretty much the pretty much all of the additions to the town hall. So again, I do just want to caution the board and members of the public that the town hall is not, again, going to be the Grand Ole Opry when you walk back into it after our redevelopment, but it will be a place that is more comfortable, but also code compliant. And our biggest challenge through this entire project is two things. I think one is the abatements that we have or will have to go through as it relates to lead paint, asbestos, and things along those lines. And the other thing is the code compliance importance of this whole project. So we can't do anything outside of code compliance if we can't do code compliance. So we have to check that box first. And only after we check that box can we move into our needs. Our wants. We have to address our needs. And our needs, we're currently about $30,000 over budget. They're confident that we'll be able to narrow that money down. Narrow that gap down and probably get us a little closer to the strike zone. But it is something to keep in mind is we're, again, having to be strategic with those financing mechanisms and budgets for those projects. The town kitchen is going to be more a furniture and fixtures renovation and less of an overall structural renovation. So with that, again, it's code compliance. So we have to do the installation of a grease trap, installation of a makeup air unit, new duct work, new hood, and the moving and relocation of some of our freezers and fridge systems, and the removal and relocation of our hot water heater, and then the expansion of the front door of the town office, because that will actually turn into the fire egress and emergency exit for the kitchen. And then we'll have to do some striping and some signage to identify that. And then the front door will actually have to widen it and make it larger to make it compliant. And then we have to turn the wall that separates the town kitchen from the fire bay into what's called a 1 hour wall. That's a rating of wall to ensure that in a fire, it will withstand a fire up to a certain point for 1 hour. So that's why they call it a 1 hour wall. For the town kitchen, we're a little bit closer to the strike zone. I think we're actually under budget on that one with the overall budget. I think actually we might just be right about at budget with that one, because I believe with design we're about at 400,000 for our construction budget, and I think as it stands right now we're a little bit over at about 420. The town church is going to be quite a bit more difficult than we initially thought. We have two different remedies for that. Neither one of them fit within budget. Essentially, all the budget that we have right now is to pay for the design work, and then take that design work and that pre-construction information, reapproach the Board of County Commissioners to try to secure more funding for the project. But as it stands right now, as a best case scenario, we get a retaining wall and the drawings for how to shore up the foundation and redo the foundation. The worst case scenario is we just get the drawings and the pre-construction information for the project to take back to the BOCC to try and secure more RDA funding. So that's basically the high level from my perspective, but both Brian and Steve have been integral in being at these meetings and asking the right questions. And so I do want to give them both an opportunity to provide any color on top of that or any lead guitar on top of my rhythm guitar. So I'll yield back to the chairman for any additional comments.
Why don't we go with Brian? I'm just an interloper to the committee meetings. Brian's kind of been on it for a long time.
I agree with everything that JT said. Just to add a little bit, you know, we're going to need money for the church retaining walls, a lot more than what we figured. And I'm hoping that we do go back and get more money for appliances and other things for the kitchen, as well as a little painting for the town hall as well. So I'm hoping that we go back to get a little bit more money on all three projects.
Yeah. I have to say that the this last meeting we had was a whole lot less depressing than the meeting before that we had. You know, the amount we can get done, the creative ideas to fit things within the budget. We're certainly not going to get everything on our wish list, and I didn't think we would anyway. But we were a whole lot more over the budget than 30,000 earlier in previous meetings. I didn't think we were going to do anything pretty much. The only other thing I have to add is they're talking about starting to interview contractors for the project in the next 30 days, I believe. So that's coming down the pipe too. So, and I've got to say, I'm very impressed with Scott McCullough from county. He does a great job with his knowledge of what we can get done with RDA and how we can fit things into the budget, and managing design and core and everybody else is pretty impressive, even though he's not a Cubs fan.
Ooh.
Okay, do we have any other comments? Pat, do you have a comment?
No.
Nope. Okay. Gordon?
Nope.
Linda? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the RDA discussion? Gordon?
I'll make a motion that we accept the RDA development update.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Pat? Okay, Pat?
I
Approve?
approve.
Gordon?
Approve.
Linda?
I approve.
Brian?
Approved.
And I approve also. Carries 5-0. Okay, next subject. Discussion and possible action on annual performance evaluation, town manager JT Chevalier.
So yeah, this is the procedural, you know, if you guys want to have a deeper discussion, but this is reflective of the annual performance review that was delivered to me in March. And so this would be the approval or denial of the adoption of that review, then been turned into HR. So with that, I'll yield back to the chairman, and I'm happy to hear any opportunities or ways in which I can better serve the community and the town and the board.
Hey, we all think you have done a great job. And in fact, the comments you see in that review are from each one of the board members. I tried to include a synopsis of what everybody was saying about you. So with that, you have a copy of that in your packet. And I believe I sent the final copy out also, each individually. And then, and we procedurally, I think we just need to approve it by the board. So is there any comments? Pat, do you have a comment?
I just want to thank JT again for everything you do. You're so easy to work with. We can reach you whenever we want to, and you're very responsive. Yeah, you get everything done quickly. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks for your comments, Pat. Gordon, do you have a comment?
Sure. Doing a great job, JT, during these tough times. Keep it up. Good job.
Linda?
I would like to say, I think, whether it's a one-on-one situation or, like our board, town office, even in your personal life, you know how important accurate, timely communication is. And I feel that, and I so appreciate that we get that from JT and Tiffany. Whether it's, I love the fact that we get fed the updates he gets from the county, from the state, particularly recently, whether it was COVID or the fire or any of that stuff. Or if, I come up with a crazy question on my own. I mean, I've called JT, even outside of business hours. I thought it was important. I'm not just stalking him or anything, but I just think the communication aspect of any relationship is so important, and I've been so happy with the way that's gone the last couple of years. So I just think that's a key competency that you have really nailed.
Thanks for your comments, Linda. Brian, do you have some comments?
Yeah, I really got to congratulate JT. He's wonderful leadership. He interfaces extraordinarily well with other people in the county. And I believe that between JT and Tiffany, that we couldn't have a better team working in the office. And I think we're very blessed for that. End of comment.
Thank you, Brian. And just briefly, I just feel like we're so lucky to have JT. We really have a great find. And I will stay on the board as long as he's here. So don't get any ideas.
If I could say, one thing is, we're a team, and I have one of the best dang teammates on planet Earth, and that's Tiffany Drew. We would not be able to accomplish what we accomplished here without her. She is a rock star, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that she stays here and she doesn't go anywhere else, because I know she's going to be a top draft pick soon enough. But I'm so lucky and so blessed to have a teammate that works in this office that is so thoughtful and understanding and actionable and trustworthy. And I just cannot tell you how much my job is because of her. And so your kind comments to me mean the world to me. And just so you know, that review is actually on my refrigerator, something that I'm very proud of. But that is not a reflection of my hard work. It's a reflection of our hard work. And if I can even be half the employee and get half as much done as she does, I'd be in a pretty dang good spot. So I just want to really tip my hat to Tiffany and say how much of a pleasure it has been to have her in the office, and how much I enjoy the team that we have, and knowing that we're going to roll our sleeves up and we got some rough waters ahead. But I feel very confident that the team that we have, and that the board that we have, and that the community that we have, is going to be great. So I truly thank you for all your comments. It means the world to me. You can call me anytime. I am here to serve you guys. And it really is an honor to be able to be here in Genoa. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your efforts. And Tiffany, too. I agree with all those comments. Do I have a motion to accept the review? Linda.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to accept the annual review for the Genoa Town Manager, JT Chevalier, as submitted by the Genoa Town Advisory Board.
Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, all those who approve, Pat,
I approve.
Gordon,
Approve.
Linda,
Approve.
Brian,
Approve.
and I approve wholeheartedly. So it carries 5-0. Very good. Well deserved too.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, number 10, discussion and update on the redesign process and timeline for the Town of Genoa's website. We already did that, didn't we?
Yeah, so this is the official unveiling. So I'll keep it relatively short. Again, Tiffany has done an immense amount of work on this. You know, I kind of started the process and then got knee deep in COVID and crisis management and broken stuff. And Tiffany really took the torch and ran with it. So I just want to show the board and members of the public the brand spanking new Genoa website. This is a fantastic website that Tiffany has worked on, that I've worked on. I'm going to shift it over a little bit to see if we can get, maybe I'll minimize. Okay, I'll minimize the people that are talking. So there's a couple different functionalities to this. So we have a home button, about history. We have government, where you can get your advisory board information. You can go to Genoa Town Office, Town Policies and Forms, Genoa Historic District Commission, Community Resources, residents. We have building codes and permits, town services codes, request services, report streetlight outages, businesses. We have a direct link to the Chamber of Commerce, things to do, town events and activities, Genoa Candy Dance. So this website is fantastic. And I don't know if you guys can see on the right-hand side of your screen, but there are some quick links. So I'm going to click the quick link, which takes us right to the agenda. But now we have our agendas and our minutes that can be posted right here. And so there's just a lot of new functionality that can happen with this. And so we have a date of release of July 15th. So Tiffany and I are going to work with Jen and make sure that everybody knows the functionality of the website, how to get into the website, how to work on the website. And the nice thing is now it's so user-friendly. All three of us collectively can share the responsibility of getting updates on the website, sending out information, push notifications, things along those lines. Again, the great thing about it is it's ADA compliant, so you can see all the different, what are those languages that it can be in. So we can even scroll down to the bottom. You have contact information. We'll just let it catch up. I'm talking faster than it's working. Contact information at the town, departments. So I am so happy with where this is at and how far we've come. And once we launch this thing, it's truly going to make it so much easier for us to get information from our office onto the web. And I cannot state enough, Jen has done a fantastic job with that website. She has done an amazing job, and she had the world working against her because that website was archaic and not functioning. And so I'm just very excited that we can move now to something that has much greater functionality that all of us will be able to access and make it just a great, solid, comprehensive website that has all the compliance pieces and just looks darn pretty. So with that, I will yield back to the chairman, Mr. Shively, and if you guys are happy to answer any questions or receive any comment.
Okay, do we have any questions for JT or comments? Pat?
No.
Gordon?
Looks great. Looks great.
Linda?
No comments. Thank you.
Brian? Yeah, thank you. Brian, no comment? I love those pictures you have on there. I can't wait to start utilizing it and so forth. You guys really did a good job. And I know Tiffany played a big part of that too. So congratulations on that project that we had.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve, not to interrupt you, but what we might do is tomorrow, Tiffany and I will probably connect real quick, just to make sure that we're confident in getting it in your hands, and we'll probably have you guys do some click-through functionality on it. Just kind of play around on the website. It's not live; it'll be some weird link, but it'll take you there. You can look at it, you can click through it, and just pretend like I mean, you don't have to pretend. You've never seen the website before, so if things are hard to find, if it's not obvious and how to get somewhere, or something that you feel is very valuable that isn't easily accessible, make some notes, let us know, because again, a website's like a business plan. It's never done. You're always revising it. You're always getting better. You're always creating better functionality. So I think what Tiffany and I will do is we'll just do one last review. We'll distribute it to the board and Jen as well. We'll get some feedback. But that site's going live July 15th, and we're going to start getting the word out. And I do have to tip my hat to Visit Carson Valley. They provided us access to all those images and more images. So we will be adding more images to that website to create more visual diversity within the website. But very thankful to them, very thankful to Tiffany. So we'll get that link out to you guys, and you guys can really do a deep dive if you're between house projects and walking the dog and watering your plants and going to work.
Sounds great. Can't wait. You gonna send us a link on it or something to get us started?
Yeah, we'll send everybody a link tomorrow, probably come at the end of the day, just to make sure that we're comfortable and we don't send you something that will send you down a rabbit hole.
Sounds great. Awesome project. Okay, any further comments? Do I have a motion to accept the update on the website?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to accept the update on the website. Can't wait to use it.
Great. Gordon?
I'll second the motion.
Pat?
I accept the motion.
And you approve?
I'm sorry, I approve the motion. Not used to this.
I know, it's different. Gordon?
Approve.
Linda?
Approve.
Brian? Approve. And I approve. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Discussion on board comments, activities, liaison committee reports, and anything else you can think of. Pat, we'll start with you.
Okay. I just wanted to bring up some ideas that people talk to me about, and one of my, again, I'll just, bring up again. I think that we could make maybe between $10,000 and $20,000 for if we have the Candy Dance online store. And rather, I haven't figured out how to charge people a percentage, but I think we can maybe charge each vendor $100 fee and keep their, I did this, just put their business card with a live link to their website on the our website. I don't know if you can see that, but it's something like this, it would look like this, just their business card and a live link. And we can keep that online store up from, say, Candy Dance until the end of the year, so people can do their Christmas shopping. So yeah, the $100 each. I don't think it would take too much to put it up on a separate website. The link from our website to that website.
Yeah,
And then
maybe,
another.
go ahead.
Go ahead. So that was just one idea. And then that was just to keep it simple. And then if we do decide, or if we are allowed to have a Candy Dance, in the park with a limited number of people, say 100, 150, Becky Rassel, that quilt that JT had put up on the screen, she had made that for another event that was canceled, and it's a Genoa quilt, and it's really nice.
It is
And
nice.
Deborah offered to donate a bronze statuette, so we could maybe have a silent auction in conjunction with the dinner dance, and people can bid on it. And we can also maybe even put it on the candy dance store for people to bid on. I don't know, but that was just another idea.
Mhm.
She was also Deborah was also talking about doing a giclée of the original painting.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, to donate to whatever. And maybe we could start a committee to start thinking on those ideas.
Yeah, that was my idea. We could put a committee together, you know, for a possible candy dance with silent auction, live auction. Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks for your comments. Okay,
I agree with Pat. There's some great ideas and that we should probably run with them, those ideas. Also, I'd like to give a big thanks to Steve and Brian for all their work on the RDA. I know they spent a lot of time on their own personal time, and we really appreciate that. And other than that, everybody just hang in there and we'll make it through this.
Yeah, thank you for your comments, Gordon. Linda?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you, Steve.
Brian?
I like Pat's thoughts, and I have no other comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple final comments. JT mentioned at the outset and during his manager's report that the CE report for all the board members is due July 15th. And the time period starts July 1st to July 15th. Don't be late. You might get a nasty letter from them.
Nasty Graham.
$1,500 nasty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And don't forget about the Bodie Flat fire. Yesterday it was 0% containment. They're having a hard time getting a line around it because it's so fast moving with all the wind up in the pine nuts and so forth. And it spread to both sides of 395 is the thing. So that's been closed for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Just be wary of that. If you're planning on going south of Gardnerville, you'll have to find another route.
Actually, Steve.
And,
oh, wait. Oh, I
Go
was
ahead.
going to, this is Linda. I just drove up from the Santa Barbara area, and 395 is now open between Topaz and Gardnerville. So you can get on the road, but just please be so mindful. There are a lot of firefighters, there are a lot of trucks, you know, all kinds of support vehicles, and a lot of people, you know, I mean, worker people, not just casual observers. There's still a lot of activity. So just please be respectful as you drive through there, but the road is open.
Yeah, and they opened up that one community too that they closed up their Pine.
Oh, did they? Okay, good, good. But you can, I mean, you can see where the fire is, that's for sure, and where it's been. So.
Yeah. I'm surprised they had any fuel left for fire out that way.
Oh my
So
God.
much.
No, they've just been so unlucky. Very, very unlucky. You know, one thing with, I know I've talked to some citizens who said, you know, why can't, you know, if people wanted to, you know, make donations to the town, I think if anybody approaches you that way, just remind them that they will want to do it through Friends of Genoa so that they will get a tax deduction.
Yeah, that's right. That's the greatest venue to do it with. Yes, Pat.
Yes.
It was my understanding that the town of Genoa is a 501c3 in a governmental sense. I don't know. Someone told me that. I don't know 100% if it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm not aware. I don't know.
Yeah, JT here. I need to look into that because I've heard that, and we do have a tax exempt number. However, I don't know how that relates to donations to the town if they are tax deductible. So let me just do some legal research because I've heard that multiple times, Pat, and I don't see why it couldn't be. But then again, I think there is a reason why those 501c3s exist. So maybe those mechanisms are in place to ensure that there's not any wishy-washy things going on with finance and donations. But let's research. Let me ask our DA, and I should be able to have an answer for us by the August board meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to comment on that. Usually in government, they don't allow direct donations to the government agency. Check into, but that's why the outer has something that's not direct connected that can donate money to it, and you have a 501c3. Anyway, the next meeting is August 5th. Do I have a motion to end this meeting?
Oh, I see Gordon is ready to rock and
I'll make a
roll.
motion then.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Great. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Pat seconds it.
Approve.
Pat, are you approved?
I approve.
Gordon?
Approve.
Approved. Linda?
Approve.
Brian?
Oh, he might be muted. Sorry. Let me unmute him.
He approves. And Steve approves.
Hey, Brian, could you give us an approval one more time?
Approve. I said it.
You were
It was
muted.
my fault.
You were muted. But I can read his lips. I'm telling you. Okay, meeting's ended. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Oh, great work, everybody. You're all rocking.
Thanks for setting this up. This is really
Thank you.
easy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did it.